Hello everyone, welcome to Perfection IAS. So in this BPSC main series, we are going to cover the question of polity. And today's question is, what do you mean by constitutionalism? Discuss the doctrine of basic structure, its evolution and significance in strengthening the spirit of constitutionalism. Okay, so first part of the question is related to constitutionalism. Second part is asking the doctrine of basic structure, the evolution and the significance of this doctrine of basic structure in strengthening the spirit of constitutionalism. So first thing first, what is constitutionalism? What is it? So constitutionalism is a legal principle that requires control over the exercise of a principle that requires the control over the exercise of governmental power to ensure that democratic principles are followed. So in simplest term, it is saying that constitutionalism means putting a limit on the power of the government to ensure that the principle of democracy are followed. Now Supreme Court in IR Colo versus State of Tamil Nadu said that constitutionalism is a principle that require control over the exercise of government power so that the democratic principles are followed. Okay, now what are the principles of constitutionalism? So first and foremost is separation of power. Why separation of power is significant? Because there are three organs: judiciary, executive and legislature. Now without separation of power they can become despotic, यानी कि वो अपने पावर का अब्यूज कर सकते हैं easily if there is no separation of power. So to prevent the abuse of power, सबकी पावर्स सेपरेट कर दी, सबका काम डिवाइड कर दिया गया है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ लेजिस्लेचर इज टू मेक लॉज, एग्जीक्यूशन is done by executive and judiciary interpret those laws. So separation of power is one factor. Second is responsible and accountable government, that is second component. Third is popular sovereignty. Fourth is rule of law. Fifth is independent judiciary. Sixth is individual rights. Seventh is civilian control of military, and eighth is police accountability. So these are the key features or principles of the constitutionalism. Constitutionalism in simplest term means limited government. That means the power of the government are limited so that the key features of democracy can be protected. Now, how constitutionalism and basic structure doctrine are connected? So constitutionalism says the power of the government are limited. What is basic structure? Basic structure doctrine says that there are certain fundamental principles of the constitution and these principles are the foundation and therefore they cannot be changed. So following the concept of doctrine of constitutionalism, Supreme Court propounded doctrine of basic structure in Keshwananda Bharati case. So in this Keshwananda Bharati case of 1973, Supreme Court gave this basic structure doctrine. Please note that the term basic structure is not mentioned in the constitution. So this basic structure doctrine was proposed to put a limitation on the amendment power of parliament so that the basic features of the constitution cannot be amended by parliament. Now it should be noted that the term basic structure is not exactly defined. It is not defined properly and it is not an exclusive list, and more things are added by judiciary time and again. So if someone asks you what is basic structure doctrine, so it is a doctrine which was given by Supreme Court in Keshwananda Bharati case. As per this, the basic structure of constitution cannot be changed or amended. Now how basic structure doctrine is strengthening the spirit of constitutionalism? See, basic structure is working in following manner. For example, it has set specific limits to the amendment power of parliament. So one thing is that the amendment power of the parliament is limited through this basic structure doctrine. Second is that it allow parliament to amend any part of the constitution. Condition is that the core features should not be amended. So it allow parliament to amend any part of the constitution. Third point is that it places the judiciary as the final authority in deciding whether an amendment is violating the basic structure or not. So judiciary is the deciding authority, is final deciding authority to decide whether any amendment violates the basic structure or not. In this context, example of NJAC is very significant. NJAC is National Judicial Appointment Commission. So this was passed by Parliament and it was approved by more than half of the states. Even then, this Constitutional Amendment Act was struck down by judiciary on the grounds that it is violating the basic structure of Constitution. And what was the violation? Violation was that it will have an adverse impact on the independence of judiciary. Now coming back to evolution of basic structure doctrine. So couple of cases are very significant in terms of evolution of basic structure doctrine. First is Shankari Prasad case. So in Shankari Prasad case, the apex court was of the view that amendment power of Parliament is unlimited and it can amend, that means Parliament can amend any part of the Constitution. Then came, Shankari Prasad was in 1951. Then Golaknath case. This was a judgment of 1967. So in Golaknath case, Supreme Court said that Parliament cannot amend fundamental rights, and as per this judgment of Supreme Court, fundamental rights are sacrosanct. Sacrosanct means they are pure, they cannot be changed. So fundamental rights were given higher priority, higher position as compared to other parts of the Constitution. This was the verdict of court in Golaknath case. Then case of Keshwananda Bharati case, KB case. This is a verdict of 1973. So in Keshwananda Bharati case, Supreme Court said that Parliament have the power to amend any part. However, when constitution makers were making this constitution, they had an idea of India and therefore they provided certain basic tenets of this India, and these are the important pillars of Indian system. Therefore these values cannot be changed, and these values are the basic structure. That means you can amend rest of the parts, but you cannot amend the basic structure, which is the lifeline of our democracy. So in this Keshwananda Bharati case, Supreme Court said that there are certain basic principles which cannot be amended. Apart from that, the court reiterated the stance which was taken in Shankari Prasad that Parliament had the power to amend any part. Condition is that it should not violate basic structure. Then in Indira Gandhi case, Indira Gandhi versus Raj Narayan case and Minerva Mills case, Supreme Court reiterated its stance that Parliament have the power to amend any part, but such an amendment should not impact the basic structure. So can amend any part? Yes. Can it change basic structure? Then answer would be no. Subsequently, in Vaman Rao case, Supreme Court held that the principle of basic structure would be applicable to all amendments enacted after 24th of April 1973. This date is significant because this is the verdict day in case of Keshwananda Bharati, which we had discussed here. So in Vaman Rao case, Supreme Court said that the doctrine of basic structure will be applicable to all constitutional amendments which were enacted after 24th of April 1973. Then in IR Kolho case, Supreme Court said that even if a law is placed in the 9th schedule, judiciary have the power to judicial review, even if it is placed in 9th schedule. So this is how the basic structure doctrine evolved. Now we are going to discuss the significance of this basic structure, significance of this doctrine in strengthening constitutionalism. So how it helps basic structure and constitutionalism. Okay, so how this doctrine helps? First, it helps in preventing legislative excess. That means it acts as a limitation on the legislative power, and this limitation is imposed by constitution. Second is that it help in retaining the or maintaining the basic features of the constitution. Then it help in protecting rights of citizens. Then it help in preventing the state from being authoritative state or authoritarian state. Apart from that, it also help in making constitution a living document. How? Because the list of basic structure is not exhaustive. That means court keep on adding new and new components into this list of basic structure, and therefore new and new elements are coming, and that is why it is said that our constitution is changing accordingly. So this basic structure doctrine is helping in making our constitution dynamic, a living document. Living document means it is changing with change in time. Now we have to write conclusion. So basic structure has prevented parliament from rewriting the constitution in the name of amendment. So it has prevented parliament from rewriting the constitution in the name of amendment. Even though it is a judicial innovation, it has limited. So it is a judicial innovation, that means given by judiciary, and it has limited the amendment power of the parliament. So that was all for this basic structure constitutionalism. Thank you.